Daybreak here on the Arise News channel. We're coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Time for a review of what's making the headlines on the front papers this morning with Arise News analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Nkechi. Good morning, Adesua. Welcome back.
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Great.
Okay, to look at the headlines this morning with us is Dr. Austin Maho. He is a lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism in Abuja. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. A child out of school today is serious threat to nation tomorrow, says Shatima. Fubara in Jeopardy as appeal court nullifies 2024 Rivers budget. Petrol price in change of style. Akpabio asks Nigerians to reduce number of cars they own. PDP NWC meeting stalemated over attempt to suspend key officials as crisis deepens. I mean, the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, is giving us advice. According to him, one of the solutions to the soaring petrol price is for us to ditch our cars. You know, petrol now sells between 1,200 and 1,300 in some parts of the country. The Senate President seems out of touch. You know, in a city like Abuja, without a highly developed public transport system, you definitely need a vehicle to be able to move around. Dr. Maho, without a vehicle, I wouldn't have been able to come early this morning. I leave my house sometimes by 4:30 in the morning. Without a vehicle, you cannot get to work early.
You are very correct. You know, where you have a city that doesn't have an effective public transportation system, the Senate President came out and made such a statement. To me, it amounts to a kind of comic relief. And, you know, the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, is always very comical. And I think we should go with the appellation of comical Godswill Akpabio. Because this is not the first time he's making such comical statement when it comes to serious national issues. It's not about cars. People have cars. Yeah. It's because they cannot afford to fuel their cars. In any case, he's talking about, you know, it shows the arrogance of power. People in political office, they don't understand what the average Nigerians, they are going through. Many people who have cars, they can't use the cars. They practically, I know a lot of people who have ditched their cars because they cannot afford maintenance costs of running those cars. So it's not that I have 5 cars, 2 cars or 3 cars, and I'm using all of them at the same time. So there's a need, in order for me to cut costs, then I need to ditch others and stick to one. That's the import of his statement. And to me, it's comical, it's laughable. It trivializes the seriousness of the situation.
And Nkechi, you know, he also says that market forces will determine the price of petrol from now on. I think those in authority are quick to use economic jargons without actually thinking about the real implications on the population, especially in a country where a lot of people are poor.
Exactly. And where is the data? Where's the statistics? You're assuring that, okay, market forces will balance out. And he goes even further to say we might then see lower prices when production ramps up. When are we going to see this? Nigerians are paying upwards of 1,400 naira per litre. When are we going to see this? How many more months do Nigerians have to be in a tight spot to then see these lower prices? If you're saying, okay, hold on for a bit, we're sorting this out, this is what's going to happen, when is it going to happen? And even if they tell us when it's going to happen, we know what the history is. Whenever the federal government or agencies say this is the time that this is going to roll out, it never rolls out really. And so Senate President's ironic advice to Nigerians to ditch their cars, coming from someone who probably has more cars than we have shoes, is just feels like a classic case of let them eat cake. And this is not what we need right now.
Right, let's look at New Telegraph. Regulatory violations, multinationals in Nigeria others paid $700 billion fines. Clark writes Kekereekun says corruption bane of Nigeria's judiciary. Appeal Court affirms Amewole as Speaker voids Rivers 2024 budget, so the crisis in Rivers continues. It is deepening. Health workers threaten strike. Issue 15, the ultimatum to FG. They want their demands addressed, which include poor welfare for workers. The health workers are also demanding immediate payment of outstanding salaries, upward review of the retirement age, and restoration of funding to the Environmental Health Regulatory Council. Teachers are threatening strike. Health workers are threatening strike. NLC is threatening strike. Everybody is threatening strike over, a lot of things happening in the country. People are really furious, Dr. Maho.
A lot of crises in our hands. If you look at what is happening in the country, especially with the recent increase, we have to pay attention to the fact that, look, this increase is not in what I call arithmetic progression. It's in geometric progression, in multiples of hundreds, not 1, 2, 3. So the shock is too much for a lot of people. And the economy is in shock itself. The people are in shock. And government is not relenting. It is expected that when you are digging a hole, you stop, at a point you stop digging if you know that you are digging your death. But government seems to be fixated with its boneheaded policy in respect of energy security and is not offering any alternative rather than trying to push this neoliberal policy on the throat of Nigerians, even if we are let them die, even if they are going to die. And like Akpabio said, if they can't eat bread, if there's no bread, give them cake. You understand? That's the situation we find ourselves. So to me, this is just what we are experiencing now may as well be a tip of the iceberg. The days ahead are going to be interesting. They are going to be tough. And Nigerians should brace up for what is to come. Right. And I just hope it doesn't lead to a catastrophic situation.
Okay, that's what the case of health workers is urgent. Whether it's nurses or doctors, the people that can't live are living in droves. So this needs to be attended to.
I mean, there's no brainer in that, Dr. Koko. And, I just want to quickly piggyback to what Dr. Maho said, where he mentioned the president of the Senate. He's known as the uncommon governor, uncommon senator. We do hope he doesn't become the uncommon jester. But you're right about the health sector. Already we're grappling with a lot. A shortage of staff. They don't have the right equipment. They cannot handle the stress they go through. And then, coincidentally, yesterday was mental health in the workplace. Yes. We should focus on our workplaces, and I think that a point of call would be the hospitals to just see what they go through. I was looking at the list of demands by Johesu, the particular health group threatening this latest strike is Johesu, the Joint Health Sectors Union. This comprises nurses, midwives, radiotherapists, a long list of people apart from doctors and dental scientists, I think the dental doctors. So it's a long list of people that will be affected should these people embark on their planned strike. But every time we have this strike, I always ask the question, are these new demands? Unfortunately, they are not. Not totally new. So you ask yourself, what has gone wrong with negotiation? On the one hand, we have to ask government about making promises they cannot fulfill. You cannot go to negotiating tables and ink those papers, agreeing to those demands, and then reneging on them. On the other hand, you have to question the negotiating ability and capacity of workers in Nigeria. How are you negotiating that every time we go back to these negotiating tables with the old demands? Right. So there are a lot of issues here, and the president being out of town, he comes back hopefully, they said 2 weeks leave, hopefully next week. He's coming back to meet a country that has not really changed since the last time he went. Okay. He left the country. In fact, he will have more to deal with.
Okay, he certainly will have more to deal with. Let's look at Punch. Ipman tackles NNPCL, threatens to stop operations. 7 banks pay 392 billion naira tax, according to report. Fubara heads to Supreme Court as Appeal Court affirms pro-Wike lawmakers. And then Nog, is it Nog or Nuju? How do you say? Nog.
Yes,
threatens suit over governor's bill to control LG funds. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees have joined the list of those threatening government. Only this time, they are threatening the state government. After the Supreme Court judgment freeing local governments from the tentacles of state governors, now they have to contend with the control of their funds. While this is a worthwhile battle, it's also imperative that local government chairmen do the work of actually governing properly. Dr. Maho, your thoughts on this?
Well, we expected that the state governors are not going to let go without a fight after the Supreme Court judgment, which is, for any reasonable democratic society, is supposed to be, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter, is supposed to put the case to rest. But we see the shenanigans being played out in some states, even with the local government elections, where you have a governor nominating his preferred candidate to become the chief executive of a local government. You should expect that definitely is because he still wants to control the levers of the local government. And many of them now have ganged up together to take it a notch further by approaching the courts for interpretation of that provision in the Constitution that created a joint account of states and local government. A lot of people who have spoken about it have actually said that the consequential effect of the Supreme Court's judgment is that it has appealed that provision of the Constitution. But people still feel that, look, it doesn't, not until a constitutional amendment is carried out on the Constitution, it doesn't amount, the Supreme Court judgment doesn't amount to a consequential repeal. So let them go to court and let them seek judicial interpretation, whether there's a need for a repeal of that provision or the Supreme Court judgment supersedes, that provisions of the Constitution.
Okay, so we'll be watching their next steps. Vanguard newspaper, deny allocation to LGs where selections were done, Senate tells FG. Nasima PDP article CSOs, others insist on reversal, talking about fuel price. Save judiciary from collapse, needs total overhauling, Clark writes CJM. Then deregulation, that was somewhere on the website of Vanguard. Oil marketers to import cheaper petrol, according to Ipman. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria says that the withdrawal of NNPCL as the sole offtake of Dangote petrol means they are free, to get products from anywhere, including importation. They say if it's cheaper, and it's competitive, that's the way to go. Your take on this, Dr. Maho?
Is the downstream sector, as it is, the downstream sector of the Nigeria petroleum industry has been fully deregulated, from fillers coming from the federal government, which means if it is fully deregulated, anybody is free. If you have the funds, you have the resources, you have the manpower, you have the equipment, storage facilities, you can import, bring into the country and sell at competitive price. But those who always push that argument, I never tell them, look, there's no country in the world where government doesn't guarantee energy security. It's all about energy security. Do you leave a critical component, a major driver of your economy, energy security, to the whims and caprices of the volatility we know exists in the international oil market? The answer is no. There's nowhere in the world where you leave a critical sector like energy security, in the hands of market forces. I always believe that this idea of full deregulation of the downstream sector is not going to augur well for the country. Government needs to intervene, and intervene as quickly as possible. Somebody was telling me the other day that look, there's need to, deregulation releases more funds to other critical sector of the economy. And I said, look, it's like a parent telling the children that, look, I cannot give you lunch, I can't give you dinner, I can't give you breakfast because I'm saving up money to buy a dining table for you. Which is more important, the dining table or the food you need to give to your children? So this argument that you want to free up funds to other sectors of the economy, that's why you are removing subsidy, it doesn't make sense. The argument doesn't add up.
Okay, I mean, your last point speaks to inefficiency in government and also the savings from that subsidy withdrawal. Will it be plowed back or reinvested in public services? That's a question. Let's look at the international headlines for you. Daily Graphic, centralized governance system must change. The centralized system is being described here as outdated and can only lead to baby step development if continued. This governance system, we're told, excludes 75% of Ghanaians from participating in governance. Nkechi, that is a high number, and so it's difficult to fault this argument.
It's a high number. You know, we always talk about urbanization as the key to economic growth. But here, the speaker is advocating for a bottom-up approach where he says, look, stimulating the rural economy could create even more jobs, include more people, which then fuels local taxation, local investment. And what this means for different countries, Ghana, Nigeria, just means that if the central government can then heed to some of these calls and move towards a more decentralized system, we've been talking about this in Nigeria, we could see a more inclusive form of development. I think that's what the issue that the speaker is really pointing at.
Exactly, that's it. Let's look at the Citizen. Huge costs for VIP health. South Africans are worried about the cost of keeping those in authority healthy. Costs range from 1 million rand a month to treat each government bigwig. And ailments are from ingrown toenails to hip replacements in what DA calls a culture of blue lighting and red carpeting. I mean, 1 million rand a month is humongous. Citizens may have a right to worry at this one.
Well, I haven't gotten the time to look at this story in depth. Is this health being, is this seeking healthcare within South Africa?
No, this is a South African story. So what they are saying that the amount that is dedicated to taking care
of the VIPs is very expensive.
Exactly.
Well, the paradox in this is how African leaders and those in government, top government officials, alienate themselves from society. It's like they are tone deaf. It's interesting that this is coming from South Africa, but is it not the same story across board, even here in Nigeria, where you think that your life is more special than those that you govern? And that's what we see. We see even in a situation where African leaders and those in government would decide to go abroad for their medical checkup than do it back home. And you can imagine how much they will plow back into healthcare in their countries. But this particular story is interesting. If you say this is within South Africa and they get special expensive treatment, how much does it cost for an ordinary South African to get the same healthcare? And why is it so expensive? Why are they special? Until leaders begin to see themselves as servants, that you are in authority because the people have put you there, doesn't mean that you are, you are above and special. You are a servant. You're supposed to serve the people and not think that, your life is more precious than theirs. It's disheartening. It's heartbreaking.
Right. Let's look at iNewspaper. Careers set for pay rise under new RENA law. The change is part of Labour's flagship employment rights bill to improve working conditions. I'm sure care workers will be delighted to hear that one of the most thankless jobs is care work, especially in relation to older people. In Europe, in the United Kingdom, most of the developed world, the population is aging and there is a high demand for care workers as people are also living much longer. And when you see people emigrating from African countries, one of the easiest jobs to get initially is care work. And they're saying that this needs to be well remunerated, and it's good news for those who are in this industry, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, it's good news for them. And like you said, especially many of the immigrants from African countries who are trooping there, that's a job mostly reserved for them. An aging population, needs care. The younger population in Africa who are trooping into Europe, That's the only job that is available for them.
It's
But
not the only
the bottom line is, when I looked at that story, I look at what is being proposed. What is being proposed is that, look, there's a need for the government, the British government, to jack up the minimum wage. The minimum wage in Britain as of today is about 11.5 pounds per hour. So the proposal is move it a notch. The unions, they are asking for 15, whereas government, I think, is proposing about 12. So when I look at the rates and compare it to the minimum wage in Nigeria, it's just about what we are arguing about. $70,000 comes to about 35,000 pounds. 35 pounds. You see the ridicule. This is a government that cares for its people, cares for its aged population, and is trying to make those that care for their aged population to be comfortable, happy to do the job. So we should take the lesson. The lesson is out there. Look, whatever you think you are paying with inflation, you know, runaway inflation like we have in Nigeria, there's a need for us to learn from other clients on how to take care of your workers.
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikoku, for always being here with us early in the morning. Also to Dr. Austin Maho in our offsite studio. That's all the time we have here on Daybreak. Goodbye from me.